This is a H.E.R Radio exclusive.
I just put out an article that has gotten a lot of heat. There's a lot of debate over this article called Coast to Coast Mixtapes. Yes, they are a scam. And there's a lot of different opinions on it. And basically, the way I see it is that you're either for the artist community or you're not for the artist community. And I, being an artist myself, am always going to be for the artist community. You have people on the industry side who are very, very good at making it seem like they are for the artists. But actually, I would call these types of people wolves in sheep's clothing. Because they say things that make sense sometimes. They say things like, well, you have to invest in yourself. You have to build a brand. You need the exposure. So they're really good at pulling on the heartstrings of independent artists, specifically indie rappers, with the whole tagline for their social media advertising, rappers wanted. Just think about that for a second. Rappers wanted. When have you ever heard somebody, anybody, say rappers wanted? If you think about simple economics, supply and demand, there's very, very little demand for rappers, but there's a shitload of supply. So if it works like that, why in the world would anybody say rappers wanted? Something's got to go off in your mind that says, when there's a lot of supply for something and there's not a lot of demand, yet they're asking directly for that large supply amount, it's just a little off. Independent rappers, unfortunately, all music artists on the indie come up, for that matter, I wouldn't say are hot commodities because there's not a lot of opportunities out there and there's a lot of supply. So that alone creates the perfect storm for what they're doing. So
you never took part in any coast-to-coast situations, did you?
Me personally, I did not.
Except for the experiment that you ran.
Right, so I submitted for the experiment, but I actually know people who have been in the showcase, who have used their promotion services, and who have been through other very similar models, I guess you could call it, the showcase models.
Right.
But yes, me personally, I have not performed or been through the coast-to-coast experience.
Okay, well, let me say this. We went to a coast-to-coast show that headlined Freeway. I decided to pull over the coast-to-coast tour manager. I believe his name was Jack. And he had enough time to break down how the tour ran, and they beefed it all up and made it sound good. And then when it came down to the cost, they wanted $7,000, and you pay for your own travel, room and board. All they do is set up the venue. Now, mind you, we were there just to see Freeway. So, who pays that much money to go on tour with no proper promotion, no buzz, and no buzz in any of these cities that he's going to? So I'm curious to know, how is it gonna advance this artist's career? So again, time passed, I forgot about it, then your blog hits the airwaves. These are things, what you're pointing out is noticeable. But again, like we spoke earlier, some people are into perception. They would like to get some form of platform at any cost until they realize they're getting robbed. So,
what you said is exactly right, and it's just one of the things that happen all the time. They are targeting very specific, because I think their model wouldn't exist without them knowing who their target audience and who their target market is. It would not work unless they knew very specifically who they were targeting. Now, I don't know if they hired anybody to do audience research for them, or who they hired. I don't know how they exactly got the data that shows, all right, these are the people that are gonna go crazy for the type of service that you're selling.
Right.
But they know that experienced people in the game that have knowledge, that have maybe done some things in the industry, they're not going to go for it because they know that things that they have achieved have come pretty much always one of two ways. Hard work and talent just shining on its own and building connections through a grassroots, organic way, or the other way they have maybe acquired some of the things that they have acquired is by investing in things that work. There are things that you can pay for that are worth paying for. I think one of the biggest backlashes that I've got from this article has been both, I'm going to say this, music industry people, upcoming artists that are still blinded by this. Their argument is, well, you need to invest in yourself. Your argument here is that you're saying you shouldn't pay for anything. And I think it was even you that commented on my blog, well, you should think about paying for things like maybe getting a feature on XXL or getting a feature on Hip Hop DX.
Absolutely.
I would say it depends, but it's definitely a much more worthwhile investment to do something like that,
right,
than to go pay $300 to perform one song. That's what people are like. This is the thing that blows my mind. You're paying $300 to perform one song in front of an audience that is all other artists. There's not one music fan in there. There's not one person in there that's gonna say, "Oh shit, where can I come to your next show? How can I subscribe to your newsletter? How can I buy your album? How can I support?" They're not saying that because guess what? They're competing against you for whatever prize, if you want to call it a prize. I don't know what they offer as their prizes. Usually, something really low grade.
Yeah, that costs more money.
Yeah, that costs you more money, right? So you're not going to get fans at these events because there's no fans there. You're not going to get any of that. What you're going to get is maybe, oh, let's work. Let's work on some shit. Let's work. Somebody, a very well-respected name in the indie artist community, had a lot to say about my article. Now, this guy, I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to create more enemies than I've already created.
Right.
But he said that this is what he said to one of the points that I called out. I called out in the article that the judges who are at these showcases are only there because they're getting paid.
Absolutely.
And this is absolutely true. Now, are there some cases where they have judges that aren't getting paid? Yeah. As a matter of fact, a whole bunch of coast-to-coast judges have reached out to me. And half of them said, well, I didn't get paid for this show. I kind of just did it, just because I was kind of bored, honestly. A few people have come forward and said, it was just something to do. I wasn't getting paid, but it wasn't costing me anything except time. I wasn't really interested in anybody that I saw. I was just there, whatever. There's also a substantial number of people who have reached out to me and said, oh, that's actually something I got paid very well to do. I got paid to be there. I got paid to promote it on my newsletter, on my social media profiles, give the brand a cosign. I wasn't really interested in anybody anyway. I was just there playing a part in the story, playing a role.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? There was like 4 people that hit me up saying the exact same shit. And the dudes that run this company are fucking very, very smart. One of the guys is actually a lawyer. And the other guy is a former artist himself. But he realized that he can make far more money by selling empty dreams to indie rappers than actually being an artist himself. Yeah, Coast to Coast pays off judges, but so what? Look at the judges on American Idol and The Voice and all these shows. They're getting paid too. So why shouldn't the judges on Coast to Coast be getting paid? I'm going to just let that sink in. Can you tell me what the problem with that picture is?
Well, the platform alone by itself, we're talking Fox Network, NBC Network, as opposed to, you know, Coast to Coast.
Right. Now, that comment right there made me say, all right, this guy is a very well-respected guy in the indie music community. He does a lot of things for a price, though. He's one of those people that also provides services for a fee.
Right.
That's the common thread here. Anybody that's going to be against my article is almost 99% of the time going to be somebody who is involved with their own form of pay-to-play service somewhere, somehow. They're involved with it, maybe not directly Coast to Coast, maybe they're doing their own thing.
Right.
So there's a very hard line between for pay-to-play and against pay-to-play. Now, I'm for it in cases where it's worth it for you to be paying for things. Do I think? Yeah, exactly, man. Like, high-quality branding, high-quality online content, high-quality music, high-quality visuals, these are all things that you could technically consider as pay-to-play. When people say you got to invest in yourself, that's how you invest in yourself. There's a guy, there's a hip-hop artist from the Bronx. His name is Prada. He does social media better than anybody I've seen. But he pays for Facebook ads. And the reason he does that is because, especially for fan pages now, Facebook shortens the amount of time that your posts are visible to your audience. There's an algorithm called EdgeRank. And it's made to only show users content for a short amount of time. The only way to get reach for your post now, if you're a fan page, if you're a business, if you're an artist, whatever, is you pretty much have to pay. Otherwise, your shit's going to get maybe a couple hundred impressions, and it's not going to get clicks and stuff because Facebook is algorithmically programming the software to not show people's content. So there's a lot of things behind what it takes to be seen and heard and get the exposure you need, but it really all stems from having a high quality online product, an online footprint. All your social media pages got to be matching. You know, the branding's got to be the same. Ideally, the Twitter handle would be the same as the Instagram handle. You know what I'm saying? The YouTube, all that shit should be consistent. Now, the one thing that Coast to Coast does really well is they just take anybody, and I can almost guarantee you that most of the people that are performing in their shows have zero things going on online. And I'll give you an example. I interviewed a kid that was 16 years old, Slim Took, from Tucson, Arizona. Right. 16 years old. This kid works at Kentucky Fried Chicken to make a living. His parents, he comes from like a broken home. His parents are split up. His father was in jail. You know, the kid's in high school. He's doing what he's got to do to move forward in life. And pursue his dream. Exactly. So he's what you would call like a really, really raw talent. I listened to his shit, you know what I'm saying? And his shit was alright. Shit wasn't that bad, to be honest with you. But the shit that was bad was everything else. Like, he didn't have good pictures. You could tell he was an amateur, you know. He's only 16. He's trying to learn the business. He's trying to pursue his dreams. So getting back to the whole who is Coast to Coast targeting, this is the kid that they want. This is exactly the person that they want. A high school kid who's got zero business savvy, who doesn't know anything about the industry and how it really works. They want to get volume. They want to get as many of these types of people in one show as possible. Travel like 3 hours one way to get to the venue, which was in the middle of fucking nowhere in Arizona. It was some little hole-in-the-wall dive bar. It wasn't even like a real venue. Wish he would have had to pay his own travel and transportation. When you work in that KFC, a $100 bus ticket is not cheap. A $100 round-trip bus ticket, plus you got to eat food, plus you got to pay $300 to perform.
Right.
So let's look at everything that would have cost him to go to that show and perform one song for an audience that didn't care about him. $300 to perform for the coast-to-coast fee. $250 for the fake ID. $100 round-trip bus ticket. We're looking at $650 off the jump. Let's just play it safe and say $700. You know how long it takes to make $700 when you work in part-time, after school, and weekends? $700, dude. And I guarantee you that his story is not the only story that is like that. I'm an R&B cat, so the R&B game is a lot different than the hip-hop game. You don't have a lot of this stuff going on in R&B, but it's also a lot harder to get into R&B shows because they screen you for quality. They look at your online profiles. They check out your vocal ability. They want to know if you're a musician or not. These are all things that Coast to Coast doesn't care about, because that very same show that the 16-year-old kid was going to perform in, they actually had 33 other performers in that same show for one night.
33 other performers in one night?
That's right.
That's like Woodstock.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Right. These are all the things that get me so worked up. And if people that are listening right now to the show and don't believe me, just go to my site, officialgaetano.com, and look at the post, because I took a screenshot of the artist lineup for that show. $300 a pop. Yeah, I took a screenshot of the performance lineup for that show. And basically the list of everybody who's performing, because they posted it on their website. You could see all these people, and for some of the people they had on there, they put their social media profiles next to it, their Twitter accounts, and I checked a few of them, and like all these people had like no Twitter activity on their profiles. It was like you can tell they were all people that didn't really know how to set up an online footprint.
They're taking advantage of the unknowing.
Right.
And you do the math at the bottom.
Yeah.
I noticed, and your total number, I'm assuming this is annually, or no, this is monthly.
Right, that's monthly.
$1,000.
Yes, that's monthly, yes.
Here's the learning thing from this whole situation. A lot of people think that, they're doing what a label does. Only difference is they're pocketing all the cash and they're charging all the artists. Whereas a label would front you a budget and make it recoupable, hoping that you would surpass the budget recouped, and then you pocket some. See, this right here basically lets you know, and I've heard this in many different music conversations, that the artist is the janitor in the building, man. And these dudes basically letting you know that you want to be on a stage, you want to be on a stage in a different city, you want to be in a different city and sell merchandise, well, here's what it costs. Regardless if there's not one hip-hop fan in the building. That
is a fact.
That floors me. But the math that you do is crazy, because $288,000 in a 30-day span times 12.
Right, you're looking at millions.
It's about time they start paying some artists over there at Coast to Coast.
Right. Now, there is also, this also really got me pissed. Foolish people on the industry side that try time and time again to defend these types of events. That same guy who said, oh, it's okay that the judges are getting paid because the American Idol judges get paid.
Right.
That same guy went and said, if you're so mad that indie rappers are paying $300 for one song, why don't you tell the indie rapper to rent out their own venue, hire their own security, hire their own sound staff, put the shit together themselves, but it's gonna cost them like $7,000. No. No. Like, that shit is not true. So,
not at all.
I know that shit is not true because I have thrown my own shows in New York City, one of the most expensive places in the world.
Right.
I have thrown my own shows at some of the biggest venues here. And I have worked it out with the venue owners to where I will not come out up front with any money at all. I will give them the entire bar tab, so they will profit 100% off the bar. That will be all the venues. And then there'll also be a door split. There will be a 30-70 door split. So I will keep 70% of the door, or the artists will keep 70% of the door, they will keep 30% of the door. But they will still supply, event security, sound manager, wait staff, bar staff, all these things. This is how you do it. This is how you do it smart. And you don't just put on one show yourself. You don't just go to the venue as one artist and say, yeah, I want to do a show here. What's good? No. Right. You collaborate and you find other artists who are like you that you can come together with, maybe 3, 4, 5 artists, whoever, that have a local following, so that you all cross-promote, you combine your following together. There's no overhead because you don't have to pay the venue. The venue's going to do their research on you and the artists who are performing. They're going to want to see numbers. They're going to want to feel confident that you're going to pull some people into the venue so that they can at least, make a little bit of money.
Exactly.
And that's how it works. That's how it works. Never in my life have I heard of anybody taking on just the venue totally empty with nothing in it. That's called renting out rehearsal space, bro. There's places that let you do that, and it's very cheap to just do that. So there's a clear difference.
Okay, so tell me this: in the event that a show, right? And I'm asking you this as an artist, all right? And are you in support of selling tickets to perform?
Absolutely not. I'm not at all supportive of that, and I'll tell you why. In the event that a venue tells you that you are required to sell tickets, so the promoter or the venue, either one, tells you that you are required to sell tickets, the first question you should always turn around and ask is, well, what's going to happen if I can't sell them all? Then what? And they're going to respond like this. They're not going to say, well, it's okay if you can't sell them all, no big deal. They're not going to say that. Right. They're going to say, they're not going to say that. You know what they're going to say, though? They're going to say, well, whatever you don't end up selling, you got to come out of your pocket.
Yep.
But why is that? Why do venues use artists to pimp out their friends, their family, their co-workers, to get butts in the seats to come see you? The point of performing is not to show your friends and family how good you are. They already know about you. They already know you're good. You've probably been promoting your music to the same people for years. It's likely that they're kind of sick of you. The idea of performing is to reach new people, to reach new audiences, to have somebody discover you that has never seen or heard of your ass before. That shit, after a while, is like, yo, I cannot support you anymore.
Yeah, and we're waiting. And we're waiting when you blow up, get into your shows for free. Right.
Yeah. So that is all a direct result of venues that are just using their venue as a means to make a profit. They don't have a regular following. They don't have a promoter Because here's how it works. Promoters and artists work together to promote an event or a music show or a venue. It's not just supposed to be the artist doing all the work.
Right.
You are not a promoter. That's not a promotion. So you're pimping out the artist. The artist is then in a toxic chain reaction, forced to pimp out his own friends and family. And it's not good because all the other artists that are performing that same night have to do the same thing. And you know what happens when there's like 5, 6 artists? They probably all have like a 15-minute set. Guess what happens to like the very, very last artist, or the last 2 in most cases? Everybody else, you're performing for nobody. All those people bought tickets to see that person. So when that person is done and goes home, then guess what happens? You are left at the end of the night to perform for the same friends and family that you've been performing for all along, all these years, that you unfortunately had to pimp out and put pressure on to buy your tickets, and they only pretty much bought those tickets because they felt bad.
Damn.
Like, this is the reality. This is the reality.
This is a H.E.R. Radio exclusive.